Welcome to the What's New in version 5.3 of the CSV to QBO Converter. It's been a while, and I've been working on this version for quite a while. So I just kind of want to run you through what is new in this version versus the previous version of 5.1.1. Now I'm going to reference a list of what's new over here, and I'm going to kind of cross it off as we go. The first main feature is loading batch files. You can load more than one file at one time. And here's how you do it. You have the load CSV and the load QBO. You simply hold down the control key when you click each one of these icons. So for instance, I'm going to hold down the control key and click on load QBO. You are now brought to a batch QBO import box. So we can now click add QBO, and we're going to select all of these. Load, and then hit load. And the next new feature is when you load a QBO file, certain values in a QBO file have a longer name. For instance, the name field typically has a smaller name, probably to confine with the character limit in a QuickBooks file. The memo line usually has a much longer name. So now you can choose which length of name you want to use when matching your rules, because this one sometimes doesn't give you a lot to go with. So now you can either choose this one or this one. And one more new feature. You can now choose your default behavior on these boxes. Like for instance, in my case, I never want to use the memo column. But I'm going to say remember this decision. Now this is on every single box that would pop up normally. And this app flows so much better once you get rid of all these boxes. You no longer have to click yes or no to. So I'm going to click no. And I will never see that box again. And they tell you if you actually do want to see that box again, you can go up to File, Options, and dialog box options. And right now I unchecked show memo box. You can either turn them all off here or say don't show them this again on a per box basis as they pop up. And you'll see that here as I go along. The next main new feature is when you go to add or create a rule. So let me go ahead and I'll load a rule file. And we'll load my computer rules. This is my main one. Once again, we're going to say highlight the rules. Do you want to add a copy? I never want to. So remember my decision and click no. Last time I'll see that box. So let's say, for instance, I want to, let's just do a new one here. This one right here. Yeah, let's choose this one right here. And I say add rules. So if I say, that's actually my mom, so let's just call it mom. And replace with, I'm going to make up a new one just on the fly. Actually, we want to do that and do mom there. And this one is going to be, we'll just call it house rent. When we hit OK, it's going to say mom has been detected as something that's not in your autocomplete, so probably not in your QuickBooks. And how do you want it to show up in QuickBooks? If you know she's already in other names, just click other names. But if she's not in other names or vendors, and you want it to go into vendor, click vendor. If you want her to flow into the other names category in QuickBooks, choose other name. I'm going to put her as a vendor. Next, house rent. It also sees that's not an account, and it can now on the fly when you import add it to the correct account. So for instance, if it's an expense account, when you import it will create house rent expense. Once again, this annoying box, I don't want to see you again. Hit OK. Now sometimes dates in a file when it imports into a file into a date format that QuickBooks doesn't like. In this case, QuickBooks likes the state format. This is just year, day, I should say month, year, day. Or, yeah, month, year, day. What you can do, though, is under Other Options, you can reformat the dates. And you can reformat it as year, month, day. And then it reformats the dates on the fly. Now, another cool feature is you still have to reload the rules file before you export. But if you want to make a change to a rule that you've just done, you can click it and click Edit Rules. And all the information you just entered is right here, and you can easily make a change to a rule without having to reload the rule completely. Now, when you export to CSV, if you have numerous splits that don't match, you used to get a box for each split that didn't match. Or actually it would pop up with one split didn't match, you'd fix that, you'd see the next split didn't match. It now shows you all the splits in an export that don't match. So let me show you that. Since my internet has gone up in price, my splits no longer match most of these transactions. So we are going to just select all, convert, and then we'll convert it to this, I don't care. And we'll just do split test. And you'll see now that it says, I actually went back to 2024. So all these splits do not match. And they tell you that. So that's kind of useful information to know, instead of seeing it one after the other. But one more thing you can do is I added the ability to shift click. So for instance, if I wanted just this up here to just down here, you can hold down the shift key and click. You can also exclude certain dates. So for instance, if I don't want the second of that one, hit OK, and it simply just selects that one. So that's kind of handy. Now, under autocomplete options, you can now import your bank and credit card files right here. You can also clear them as well. And the import vendors actually now supports other name list. So in QuickBooks, when you export all your stuff, you can put a check mark in other names list and it'll import into here. Now, one requested feature is that when you export, they wanted the check number to be imported into QuickBooks. So if we do check, and if it sees the word check followed by a number, it'll actually add that to QuickBooks. And to turn that feature on, it's off by default. You click on Convert, and then you click on Export Options, and you put a check mark and add check numbers to bank export. They'll only show up as if it's in this format, check with the number next to it. Now earlier, when you added a new rule, if you selected vendor, but you meant other option or other names list, or vice versa, you can actually change that by going into the rules editor. Create edit rules, open existing rule, and we'll load this. And right here it says modify account types. And this is really easy. So for instance, I put mom under vendors. But let's say I don't want mom to go under vendors, at least since I haven't imported her yet. I want her under the other name list. You simply go bloop, and now she's in other names. If I want Hy-Vee not under other names, but under vendor, there we go. Great. So these are some new ones I've created, some new, like for instance, house rent. And if I miscategorize that, like it's not an expense, I can then drop this down and change the account type. And then just hit OK. Also, there's a check that when you go to, for instance, load a, let's just load this one here. If you go to load this and you accidentally select your default account instead, it'll now say you've selected your default account settings file instead of your rules file. So it just lets you know you're accidentally selecting the wrong file. Alright, so there's also a new app built into the converter called Tax Converter. When you click on this one, you can load a IIF file that you've recently converted to import into QuickBooks, and it lets you split the tax out of transactions. Like for instance, we have one here, and we can actually tax accountant, right? And my tax rate is 7% in Iowa. So for instance, if we find one that I can actually do the tax easily on, like for instance, which one here? 2140. So let's go ahead and deselect all, and we'll select 2140. And if we export the IIF tax split, or whatever we're going to call it, it will then resave the IIF file with the tax split out of that transaction. So if that is on 2/26/2024, we can actually open up my IIF file and go to 2/26/2024, and you're going to notice that, which one is it here? Let's see. I shouldn't have loaded one that has a bunch of years. Let's see. Oh. Did I choose the wrong one? Okay, chose the wrong one. Anyway, let's see. $31. So anyway, it took $31 and it took out 7% tax, and then it left you the original amount. So then on import, you could then have the tax go into its own designated account, and then the actual transaction goes into the account you specified. So anyway, that's called the tax converter. Now, on export, you can have it put directly into the tax converter. So for instance, and let's load one that's not so ungodly huge. That's literally 3 years of transactions. Let's load my rules file. And we are going to do, that's 2023. We're going to do select all except ignore. I'm going to uncheck that. That's going to fail the split because that's an old amount. And we're going to convert. And let's convert it. And we'll do split. Oops, my bad, cancel. We have to go to export options and open tax converter after export. So now we're going to click on convert. Let's do split test again. Hit yes. Convert successfully. And then it opens it up in the tax converter. So you might find that app useful. So one more thing is when you first open the application up, you're going to see a little box appear. And here it is. That little box that blinked just before this opened up is the actual app checking for updates. So in the event that it gets stuck checking for updates, before the app wouldn't even load. It would just get hung up checking for updates. Now it blinks, or if it stays on the screen saying checking, 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 you can now cancel the update process. So the next big feature is automatic update checks. So for instance, I'm going to go ahead and open up an earlier version of the converter. One that, while I was beta testing, I released a new version. So we're going to go ahead and open this one, just to kind of show you how this works. When you open the app, it checks for updates, and it says, hey, there's a new version, and it shows you what's new. Now, in previous versions, it would say there's a new update, and it would say what changed, but you had to go to Dropbox and download the update. Now you simply click on download new version, and it downloads the new version and places it in the folder. Right here, there's the new version. Now, when you hit OK, it looks at all the previous versions you have, because you might accumulate quite a few of them. And at this point, it lets you delete a previous version. So you can just put a check mark in this one and then hit delete selected. And it deletes it off your computer. All right, well, that about does it for the What's New in version 5.3. I hope these modifications make your life a lot easier and the app a lot easier to use. Thanks for watching.